Evening. It's Pastor Trish, and I first of all want to say thank you to those of you that commented last evening. I took a night off for um, a couple of reasons and invited you, though, to let me know what some of your favorite songs and hymns were. So, thank you to those of you that took me up on that offer. And I would love to hear from more of you as well. So, this evening, as I finish up the devotion, if you've got a favorite song you want me to know about, please do so. I think we'll continue doing songs here into the next week at least. And so, I would love to be able to feature or talk a little bit more about one of your songs. It is music that gives us what is it about music? It just speaks deep within us, right? It finds a place within our souls, within our hearts that sometimes even words can't penetrate, that just can speak to us for a whole variety of reasons. Tonight, I wanted to bring you one of my favorite hymns, and I'm not even sure why it's one of my favorite hymns. I shouldn't say that, but um, I don't know how necessarily it got to be one of my favorite hymns, but I remember when it happened, when I was finishing high school, so a long time ago. That summer before I went off to college, I it was at a point in life where it's like summer jobs weren't easy to find, one of those times in our economy. And I ended up for that summer being in a program called the Youth Service Corps. And it was essentially a volunteer program. We got a small, like $10 a week, probably, or something. And we worked at the Regional Treatment Center in Faribault at that time, which of course is now a prison. But at that point, it was still one of the large state institutions in Minnesota that was home for people with developmental disabilities. And this was my real first experience working with people with those kinds of disabilities, with really any kind of disability in general, but in particular developmental disabilities. And that experience actually led me to a career. As some of you may know, I spent many years in social work, and my first folks that I worked with as a social worker were people with developmental disabilities as well. I still remember the first day when I walked into this big room and somebody was yelling rather loudly from the corner, and I was like, oh no, what have I gotten myself into? But he was a wonderful, wonderful man. So many of the people I got to meet and work with that summer were, and in particular, what happened was we would work in what was called like their day program. They'd have about a 6 hour day of activities, leisure, a little bit of work, just activities, really, kind of a day activity program. And then at the end of the day, we, as volunteers, mind you, were required to work for 8 hours a day. And so we would do a lot of one to one activities with people. And there was a young woman who was in a wheelchair who didn't have language ability. She's what we would call nonverbal. And many days I would take her out on walks throughout the campus. And if you've ever been on a campus of like a state hospital, regional treatment center, or something, it's beautiful. Sidewalks, lots of buildings, lots of mature trees, just a very beautiful grounds, really. Think about it like a college campus, something like that. And so we would walk. I would push her in her wheelchair and we would just enjoy sunny summer afternoons. And often, about probably halfway through the walk, we would stop and I'd sit on a bench and just visit with her. She maybe couldn't speak to me in words, but I could tell what kind of mood she was in and what was happening by her facial expressions, by the way in which she responded to me. And I would sing as well. And This Is My Father's World is just one of those songs that I remember singing to her many, many days. I don't know why, but it's at that point that it became one of my favorite hymns. And it seems like it's a song that we don't necessarily sing a lot in church. I don't know why, but every time I think, we sing it like today is a perfect day to sing the song, right? Because the sun is shining, it's warm. I just came in. I apologize for being a few minutes late. I was finishing mowing the lawn, um, finding the lilacs starting to bloom, and the apple trees are blossoming, and the ground cover, and oh, wow, the world, the earth comes alive this time of year. And this song speaks to that. But I think it's a song that can speak to us all the time about how God shows us God's goodness, God's beauty, God's grace, and God's faithfulness in creation itself, the ways in which creation bounces back. This spring has been very different from the last few springs in terms of moisture, and the way in which my lawn and parts of my yard are bouncing back differently this year than from the last few years when we've had a lot of water. Anyway, I could go on and on a lot about that, as you can tell. But it's beautiful. Our world is beautiful. Um, and yeah, there's bad things in it sometimes, like a coronavirus that we can't even see. But there is so much beauty, and I think opportunities and things that God provides for pleasure, right? Just the sheer beauty. Um, Living things live for the sake of living, and they provide to us just so much wonder. And we have that opportunity as people to do that same thing. And God gives us gifts just like God gives all of creation gifts to share with one another. Okay, there's enough of a sermon for today. This is my Father's world. I will post a recording of it in the comments section. And I'm just going to invite you now to sing loud and sing praise to creation as we together sing the first verse of This is My Father's World. This is my Father's world, and to my listening ears, all nature sings, and round me rings the music of the spheres. This is my Father's world. I rest me in the thought of rocks and trees, of skies and seas. His hand the wonders wrought. Birds sing the lily white. Let me not forget, though the wrong seems oft so strong, God is the ruler yet. This is my Father's world. This is the last verse. Why should my heart be sad? The Lord is king. Let the heavens ring. God reigns. Let the whole earth be glad. May you be glad this evening. Thank you for spending a few moments with me, and we'll see you soon.